In 2010, HCPSS administered at each school community the School Environment Survey, which is used to measure outcomes of the HCPSS Goal 2, a safe and nurturing school environment. At one school, the results revealed some bullying, specifically in the area of socioeconomic status and ethnicity. As a new Board of Education member, what would you do to help our schools become more culturally proficient and to educate our school communities about the negative impact of bullying? Would you like me to repeat the question, or?
The last part, yes.
The last part. As a new Board of Education member, what would you do to help our schools become more culturally proficient and to educate our school communities about the negative impact of bullying? And would you like to start, Frank?
I don't care.
We can just go down the line and then we'll mix it up after, okay?
First of all, bullying cannot be tolerated. It's something that I abhor it. The system, we already have a cultural proficiency program that is part of our, I'll say, part of the system mantra. This is not just an exercise that was done once a couple of years ago. It's something that's incorporated into our system. All staff members, from school bus drivers up, have to go through this program. So in addition to culture, in fact, PTA has also been involved in that and has been trained. Perhaps we can expand that to some of the local parent groups also. And I'll just mention that, you know, I preach civility, and bullying doesn't have any part in civil discourse.
I think Frank kind of said it, and I think we all here would say that I think one of the great things that our school system does is to work on these challenges that we're talking about. I guess I see it as a little personal, because having a son with autism and going through the school process from elementary to middle school to high school, I see the challenges and I see the differences that maybe my son may explain and may act because he's repeating Thomas the Tank Engine when other ninth graders are really talking about what they're texting and that. I understand that we have a diverse community, and I think the school system has done a great job in trying to educate all our students about differences, from the Best Buddy program that's offered at Wild Lake High School to some of the mentoring programs that my son was a beneficiary of at Dunlogan Middle School. I think we have some great programs. I would like to take that stride further, and one thing I would like to do is to make sure that we follow the procedures and regulations that we need to do in reporting and discussing bullying in all levels of our educational system.
Thank you. Ms. French?
I think we need to make parents more aware of the fact that if there is any incident of bullying that they hear from their child, they need to report it immediately. We need a record. We can't have people come and say this has been happening for weeks or months when the school was not told about it. Teachers have to be, it has to be heightened to their level of awareness that they need to make sure that a report is made. We have to report to the state on this issue, but it's more than just bullying. It's cyberbullying, it's making fun of people's clothing, and so the whole civility aspect and the whole we have to respect each other is very important. There's not enough time for these.
I told you it was a hard one.
One part is that a new standard has been added to the teacher's evaluation form, and that is how well do they commit to cultural proficiency, and how well do they support that within the school environment. So that's going to help a great deal too.
Thank you.
I think one of the best ways to encourage students to be accepting of other cultures and differences among their classmates is to start early. Just start in kindergarten, basically. And I think one of the things that is going to make a bit of a difference, depending on how we implement it, is teaching foreign language in elementary school, and having a cultural aspect to that instruction. I know teachers, my daughter's had teachers who have had children, very culturally diverse class, had children come present aspects of their their background, their ethnicity, their religion, and share with the class. The Best Buddies programs that Mr. Ballinger referred to are fantastic, but they're not available at all schools, and certainly not at all middle schools. And I think we need to bring them down to the middle school level as well.
You know, I reflect back on my experience as a student in the Howard County Public School System. I remember back during the first Gulf War, when a vicious rumor started at Glenville High School when I was a freshman, about my father's descent, and dealing with bullying and dealing with racial epithets written on my locker, and people getting in fights with me every day, and people saying they couldn't play with me because they thought my dad would be a terrorist, and those type of things. And I remember how that felt. I remember thinking, gosh, I wish I was blonde hair and blue-eyed and didn't have a funny last name, and all those things that go through your head when you're a silly teenager. And it's hard. It is hard to be hated for what you look like. It's hard to be resented in those ways. And having had that experience, and then just a few years later after that, being the student government president at Glenville High School, we had had a bunch of racial fights between Howard High School and Glenville High School the previous year. And we did a conscious effort when Jackie Brown became the Director of Human Relations here in the school system to initiate a peer mediation program that really changed some of the hearts of the kids to be able to prevent it from happening themselves. Punishing bullying isn't going to stop bullying. Preventing bullying is what's going to stop bullying. I think we need to change the hearts of those who are involved.
Thank you.
I think we can agree that the rights of all students have the right to learn, and when students feel safe and secure in their buildings, they're more apt to learn, they're available for learning. Bullying should not be tolerated. I think we're all in agreement with that too. But as an assistant principal, I deal with bullying as part of my job. There needs to be an environment and systems so that students feel safe reporting issues of bullying. With the nature of bullying, it often goes unnoticed. It's sneaky. It's during times that we don't suspect it. And we need to have systems in place where students can go to their teachers or to an educator and report it. I also believe that we need to educate the entire school community. We need to educate parents, teachers, and train teachers on how to deal with bullying. Now, working in Dundalk, I've said to many parents, you cannot tell your child to hit back if they are hit. That's against the school rules. But I think we need to set up conditions where we can train our teachers, our parents, and remove the sarcasm in the classroom too from our teachers.
Thank you. I'm going to go to the part where you had said, what exactly would you do? And of course, with the events of this weekend and the really tragic consequences of bullying that people knew about and someone should have done something. This is a sort of a sore spot for me. What we really need to do is underburden the teachers so that they can get back to watching. They need to be standing in the doorway of their classroom when the classes are changing and looking and watching and seeing what's going on. And when they see something, they need to do something about it. I've seen it myself when I've seen an adult employee of a school in a position where they should have been observing what was going on, and they just walk back into their classroom and ignore it because I assume because they didn't want to get involved and have to deal with whatever paperwork or whatever ugliness would be ensuing. It needs to be a requirement of the job, and they need to be able to do it without taking on such an additional burden that they can't do the rest of their job. Thank you.
As a student who started school in the early 60s, I know what it's like to be bullied. I could take my glasses off, I couldn't see the board, but I couldn't change my skin color. I know what it's like to be treated differently because of how you look. This Saturday I got a call from a mother whose son was brutally beaten, and she called to ask me what she should do and how she should proceed. And we had a great conversation. I think it's going to take us as a community to say to all of our children, to everybody in our community, that bullying, that the Jerry Springer mentality has no place in Howard County. And I think we need to teach students how to resolve differences. I think we need to help our teachers, as was said, help our teachers provide more opportunities for our teachers to identify some challenges and encourage our parents and students that it's not okay to be talked about or teased, but you must report it immediately, and then our administrators must take action and at least inform parents that they are taking action. Not necessarily what the action is, but that they are taking action.